This is Duke University.
Global trade and environmental justice.
Human rights issues are still.
The term Ubuntu.
About the Alien and Sedition Acts.
Is making inferential discovery.
The importance of an archive.
The John Hope Franklin Center.
FIFA is, a kind of curious organization, as you all know. It's hard to figure out exactly what to call it. It's, of course, an international organization of impressive scope with more members, as they always like to say, than the UN, because it has members like Palestine, New Caledonia, Wales, and so forth. It is also really has to be described as a kind of global corporation, right? It commands incredibly large merchandising rights and television rights and so forth. It is is one of the least transparent organizations, I think we can say, operating on a global scale. It's sort of a culture of secrecy that many people point out, and frequently described as a mafia, a dictatorship, and so forth, right? And people like Maradona and others. And at the same time, it sells this brand, which is a brand of peace, harmony, friendship, joy, and it sells it very well. I mean, it sells like a very good brand, and it does it very effectively. So it's this kind of complex of things that of course, then came bearing down into the South Africa World Cup. FIFA, obviously, not obviously, but FIFA insisted on this remarkable level of control over the proceedings, right? And the kind of collusion between FIFA and the South African government on this was intense. A few weeks ago, at a presentation at the Keenan Center, a show described FIFA as this kind of extraterritorial sovereign power that kind of came in, right, and invested in South Africa. To the point that they actually set up particular ports, like these World Cup ports, right? So there's this real kind of state of exception during which a sort of set of juridical processes were put into place to deal with crimes committed during the World Cup, with the idea that this would deter, crimes against attendees. The interesting thing is that in many ways the experiment seems to have worked in the sense that crime dropped substantially, raising all these questions. Was this surrender of juridical sovereignty justified? And on the other hand, if the techniques worked, why aren't they applied all the time rather than just the World Cup, right? And it wasn't just the courts, of course, that played a role, but the massive deployment of security forces. And here it was, we were talking about this morning with the Shield, that this was a form of security that was not a sort of highly militarized or armed security, but rather just the presence of incredibly large numbers of kind of volunteers, or not only volunteers, actually paid, but not police forces in the streets to kind of assist and kind of make people comfortable in public space, which in a place like Johannesburg in particular was, is different, obviously, from the way daily life plays out. Now, the other debates that came before the World Cup involved merchandising. Now, FIFA is particularly intense in its desire to control basically every aspect of merchandising and to sell its own swag at all its own events. They actually, insisted that no one could sell anything. No independent merchant could sell something that said like South Africa 2010 or World Cup or FIFA. They eventually pulled back and relented from some of this, and as was obvious in South Africa itself, nobody was really paying that much attention to those restrictions. Also, more importantly, the thing that FIFA didn't quite, perhaps, or maybe they understood, but they couldn't quite control, is that what people really want to buy when they go to a World Cup are national flags, which are, of course, not trade marketable, and that's mainly what people bought, and everybody could transform themselves into a fan of any given country on the way to a match. And of course, at this World Cup, what everybody wanted was vuvuzelas. And then what everybody else wanted was earplugs. And those were sort of three things that were being sold and hawked on the way to the stadium.
Produced by Duke University. Online at duke.edu.